What's going on? Welcome back to Trending Stocks. Today, I want to talk to you about SoFi. More specifically, this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, what the current data points are saying, and go over everything else that you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up. And with that, let's get right to it. Starting off, hopefully everyone's having an amazing weekend thus far, and happy Father's Day to everyone that does celebrate. But without further ado, let's get right to it. So SoFi did go down 5% on Friday. Kind of a very interesting day because you did have that tentative sell-off because of this 144 that was submitted on Thursday and then followed up by this Form 4 on Friday morning, and that did insinuate the QIA did sell out 100% of their position, and they were a pretty large insider, so kind of gave SoftBank vibes. And clearly it goes to show exactly that SoFi and its institutions do not like to see larger entities selling out their position, because that's one thing that SoFi does typically struggle with, is institutions paying attention to it. And I did a video on Friday just kind of vaguely talking on that and many things. I've seen, oddly enough, a lot of comments saying that, oh, SoFi doesn't need institutions and blah blah blah. I kind of beg to differ. So just make sure you guys do your own due diligence. But ultimately, that's what prompted a sell-off. But Anthony, being the boss that he is, he did submit or buy some more shares. So he's the one that kind of caused it to kind of rebound. And he's actually single-handedly the only reason why it didn't go down probably 8% that day, because it was breaking below support levels. But beside the point, you can kind of see good old Anthony Noto on Friday, transaction code P, so that is using his own money, 30,715 shares at a price of $6.48. So Anthony did buy another $200,000 worth of his stock. And no matter what happens with the stock price, which sometimes is very crappy, Anthony, I have the utmost respect for him because he is actually putting his money where his mouth is, and a lot of CEOs cannot say the same. So hats off to you, Anthony, and happy Father's Day to you as well. Yeah, definitely that's amazing stuff. But once again, shorts were very much all over SoFi on Friday, so anticipate them to be very active this week, especially considering it is close to a very strong strike price. So I'm going to talk about that in a second, but on Friday, shorts did increase 1.56 million shares, 17.21% of the free float is being shorted, and that works out to be 178.77 million shares overall are being shorted. Even on Friday alone, of the total amount of volume, shorts did represent about 67.69%. So I've said this in the past, shorts kind of use SoFi as a puppet. They pretty much move it how they see fit, and this is why pretty much over this last like 3-4 months, every single Friday, whenever it's close to a strike price, this is where you do see, obviously, it get pulled down. So it's a very unfortunate scenario. Luckily enough for this upcoming week, it looks like shorts do feel that maybe Friday's sell-off was unjustified. And I kind of do tend to agree, because looking right here, you do see only 2,000 in open interest at that 650 strike price for the June 21st expiry date. So if they felt or did want SoFi to kind of be suppressed below 650 for this upcoming week, they would have doubled the hell down at 650. So that's something to kind of consider, but there is that very strong wall at $7, so currently 41,000 at that $7 strike price. So there might be a value rally this week, but most likely it will struggle with $7 once again. So I'm going to go over support and resistance points and everything else that you need to know. But starting off with this upcoming week, there's only two things to really watch for. A lot of Fed speakers throughout the week, but the only one that you need to pay attention to is on Thursday because of the topic. And then aside from that, though, you do have retail sales. So that's kind of the only data point to watch for, and that's coming out on Tuesday. And especially based on what Powell said, like a lot of people are going to be looking at what consumers do. And so far, at least based on the last several reports, they've been at least holding their gains, right? So they've been actually showing that they're out there making the money and everything else. And retail has been that kind of cornerstone of the market that has been really saving everyone. So definitely stay tuned for that. And then going back quickly to a lot of the Fed speakers, if they go off topic and just start ranting on, let's say, interest rates or possibly interest rate hikes, then yeah, that's going to affect the broader market. But based on their topics alone, it doesn't look like they're going to be anything to worry about aside from Tuesday. So definitely stay tuned for Tuesday. And then that does also mean the rest of the week is going to be more of a technical driven week. And currently looking at the fear and greed index, you do see it at 38. So people's appetite for risk isn't necessarily there. So in a lot of cases for some stocks, it's going to be more laddered towards kind of selling rather than buying. But definitely it's going to be a very interesting week for SoFi, because looking on the actual technicals itself, with it closing at $6.46, it landed exactly on this S2. And like I mentioned, SoFi was dangerously selling off. And this right here was when Anthony did disclose that he did buy through that SEC filing. So he did save SoFi because it did have $6.43 as the low. So it was kind of starting to go into free fall mode, and especially shorts were very, very active throughout the whole day. They were going to suppress the hell out of SoFi. So Anthony, once again, like I said, did save SoFi on Friday. Whether it does continue or not, you really need to watch for this S2 to hold. And then vice versa, $6.69 is going to be that next strong resistance / target for SoFi, at least in the short term. I do feel that at least on Friday, there might be a push to kind of the middle ground here. I don't feel that it's justified for it to be above this S1 given the circumstances, because keep in mind on Friday alone, there was a lot of external fears that was really causing the broader market to sell off. So I feel like it might have a nice push to kind of this middle ground, dependent on Tuesday on the data points and what the Fed speakers are going to be saying. That might ultimately push it below here into this S3 to this S2, or vice versa might be that deciding factor or that nice push that SoFi needs to get between this S1 and the pivot. So once again, I feel like this week is just going to be broadly somewhat neutral / somewhat negative. So it might retest this S2, but at least on Monday, there might be that value rally that does occur. So let me know your thoughts if you do tend to agree or not. And then aside from that, on the actual chart itself, so when I was doing a video roughly right here, I did say the first sign of weakness, you are going to see a significant pull down, because looking at the stochastic, it is considered overbought. And as I've said in the past, like time and time again, the first sign of weakness, you have sell-offs. This is what happens every single time. So I think the writing was just on the wall exactly this time around as well. So it kind of overdone if you ask me. I think just based on just the broader market fears and the QIA, it just very bad timing. But needless to say, retail also found it justified just to sell out like crazy of SoFi. And I see a lot of comments on social media, just people very, very frustrated with SoFi. And again, don't get me wrong, I think a lot of people are very frustrated, as am I, with the price action, not the fundamental business itself, because the fundamental business and Anthony, they are doing phenomenal. It's just the market's representation of SoFi and just the lack of institutions really getting in. And yes, I do disagree with a lot of people. Institutions are very much needed to have good support levels. If not, this is where you get shorts kind of acting like the puppet master. So it's a very unfortunate scenario in my opinion. So like I said, I really do like the company itself, just the price action, it does suck. So this is why I've said in the past, if you do really like SoFi, learn options. You can always sell puts, sell covered calls, get some additional premiums coming in. So make sure you guys research that and all the fun jazz. But on the actual chart itself, getting back to that, so it is right now outside the Bollinger Band. So usually 9 times out of 10 when that does happen, this is where you get that value rally, as I've said, such as right here. And even if we extend it a little bit further, this is what happens. 9 times out of 10, it kind of just bounces back. Vice versa does happen on the higher percentile as well. So in reality, you can anticipate a nice bump up on the stock price on Monday. So give yourself a shout out if you did buy on Friday. I did buy. I actually bought in a little bit lower than good old Anthony because I bought in exactly at $6.48. So I saved 0.0025 or a little bit better. Obviously, he beat me by quite a lot. I only bought 2,000 shares, but still, give yourself a shout out if you did buy on Friday. But when it comes down to the stochastic, you do see a very bearish deviation. And like I said, just with institutions selling as well as retail, SoFi definitely does need to entice itself to institutions for them to buy. But all in all, I feel like this week is going to be a very, very volatile week. Depending on the data coming out on Tuesday, it could really push it below this S2 or might be that deciding factor for it to be within this S1 to the pivot once again. But regardless, a lot of volatility, so very much key to sell options, in my opinion. So you guys do whatever floats your boat though, because I'm not a financial advisor. Let me know your thoughts on SoFi. Where do you think things are going to be going? Or do you think it's going to be sub, like maybe, or the lower $6 range, or do you think it's going to be pushed back into the $7 range? What's your thoughts? Don't forget to hit that thumbs up and subscribe. I always greatly appreciate that. And with all that, appreciate all of you watching.